Alabama is going to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns. College game day is going to be there. Big noon kickoff's going to be there. We're going to be there watching on our couch, so we're going to be there in spirit watching that game. But I'm not disappointed it's not be at this game. It's going to be what sounds like 700 degrees Fahrenheit at the time of kick, being played on turf at DKR. And this game has been circled for a long time. It's been the talking point of the offseason for a very, very long time. Especially in Texas Longhorn circles, this is being viewed as a litmus test. Hey, how far along are we in the Sark era? How much do we have in this program offensively with Quinn Ewers? How different do we look? Because you're measuring yourself up against, like it or not, the standard for programs in college football. You can make a case for Ohio State. You can make a case for Georgia. But in terms of a program under the same person in Nick Saban, for what they've done over the period of time he's been there, they are the standard in college football. And so for Texas, this is a great chance to take your best shot and then also see where you match up, see where you are in that process to ultimately measuring up against the standard. The spread right now is Alabama minus 20. I believe it was somewhere around 14 when it opened. The money has been pouring in on the Crimson Tide. But like we typically do when it comes to these breakdowns, if it were to be an upset, if Texas were to pull this off at home, what would have to happen? First and foremost, and it sounds cliche, we talked to Joe Cook over there at Inside Texas, does a great job for us, our Texas On 3 site, and he echoed this sentiment. They need to be able to establish the run. And it sounds like coach speak. It sounds like it's boilerplate stuff, but it could not be more true in this game. Bijan Robinson is Texas's best player. He is the most dangerous person with the football in his hands. He needs to see the ball probably around, no joke, 30 times. Whether that's carries and catches, he needs to see the ball a lot. But what they can do on the ground is how they're going to set the tone for the rest of the afternoon. Because if that run game gets going, if somehow they're able to get a push up front with those young offensive linemen and Bijan Robinson can make something happen and sort of wiggle and find his way through and get some positive carries early in the game, well, then what happens is those linebackers start to creep up a little bit, start to get a little bit greedy. They're tired of Bijan Robinson gashing them. And that's when Steve Sarkisian and this RPO scheme, the run past option offense, that's when it sort of takes hold of the defense. That's when you're going to have some more breathing room if you're Quinn Ewers to be able to hit Xavier Worthy over the middle. You're able to hit Sanders on a pop pass. That's when the rest of the offense can kind of get going. So that is crucial. In addition to that, if there were to be a ever so slight advantage, if you were going to make an argument for Texas to have an advantage in this game, it's on the outside. It's early in the year. Alabama a season ago wasn't necessarily lighting the world on fire with their secondary, and they're breaking in some guys. Eli Ricks, a transfer from LSU, enormously talented. He's still sort of cutting his teeth in that defense, and they're sort of green at the other corner positions as well. Kool-Aid McKinstry, at times last year, again, wasn't playing all-world caliber football. And then you got Xavier Worthy. You get Ajay Hall back. We'll see what his impact is, but he's familiar with this program of Alabama. Again, very, very hesitant on saying he'll be a high-impact player, but you got to talk about your weapons if you're Texas, because that's the ever-so-slight advantage. Maybe you take advantage of the, I don't know if immaturity is the right word, but inexperience in the secondary for Alabama. Because if it's week 7, I think Alabama's caught their mojo. Getting them in week 2, getting them in their first road game, that could be the slight advantage. So if I'm Texas, I'm Quinn Ewers, I'm Xavier Worthy, I am testing that. I'm testing that early, and then if that works, I'm testing it often. So being able to generate big plays and being able to keep this secondary honest is going to be a big deal for them going forward. So here's the deal. If Texas does win this game, what does it mean? It means that Quinn Ewers grew up in front of your eyes in his second career start and is now the stuff of legend in Austin, Texas. It also means that the culture at Texas, the whole revamp we've been talking about for years, it feels like, for the longest time, you're starting to finally see some fruits of that labor. Has it arrived? Again, it's week 2. We'll see, y'all. We will see. But a win against Alabama and the GOAT and the former Heisman Trophy winner for Texas, that means there is reason for new belief in Austin. All the stuff that you've talked about, all the recruiting classes, all you did in the transfer portal, getting Quinn Ewers there, all of that has seen some final definitive results. Cannot be overstated. Looking to Bama. For them to win this game, quite frankly, they have to not give it away. They're going to have more talent, and that's not a knock against Texas, but as a product, Bama is just further along in their development than Texas is. Bama has a lot of things built that Texas is striving to build. You got Quinn Ewers at quarterback. You have high aspirations for him. You have high hopes for him. Will he be someone who's in the Heisman Trophy race one day? They sure hope so. Bryce Young's won it. Bryce Young's looking for his second. He's got one of those stiff arm trophies on his mantle in his apartment in Tuscaloosa. So that's the first thing. In addition, you got to limit the explosive plays. We talked about it a little bit with Texas, but there is a very, very slight, again, this is an argument, but there is a very slight vulnerability in the secondary for Alabama. And if Texas can capitalize on that, well, then you're sort of having to play catch up as Alabama, which sounds funny to even say out loud. Again, we're saying, how does Bama make sure they win this game? Limit the explosive plays. Don't give the game away. You have enough talent on this offense and this defense to where if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you should be in good position to have control of the game. Bryce Young at times last week against Utah State. It was Utah State. He accounted for like 6 touchdowns. They rolled. We actually made money here on the hard count against the Suits, taking a minus 41.5. They got the job done easily. But in those first couple of drives, Bryce Young is setting the protections. There were times where I wasn't crazy about the protection he had set. And you could see in terms of the communication on the sideline with Nick Saban and Bryce Young, it was a, hey, my bad. I didn't have that set, and that's why I got hit off the edge. That's why we had to kick a field goal on this first drive. We're being nitpicky, but Bryce Young better make sure he sets the protection. He better make sure that he has everything set because I think Texas is going to throw the kitchen sink at Alabama. And why wouldn't you? If you're Texas, Steve Sarkisian said it this week in the press conferences. He said, this has no impact on our end goal. We want to be in Dallas at the end of the year playing for a Big 12 title. This game for us, we got house money. And if I'm reading between the lines, I'm saying we're not supposed to win this game. Bama's favored by 20. We got nothing to lose. There is nothing more dangerous than a soldier with nothing to lose because he is unloading the clip. And that's what I expect for Texas to give to Bama in this game. You're at home. You're not supposed to win. They're the big dogs. You're the little guy. You're David, they're Goliath. Throw some stones. Absolutely swing for the fence if I'm Texas. When it comes to our prediction, like we said, on paper, Bama is just further developed. Bama has more in place that Texas is striving to get into place. If Texas were to win, it would be a huge deal for that program. At the end of the day, I think the maturity of the program as a whole for Bama and then Bryce Young being just enormously talented is what ends the game for Bama. So all that to be said, we're taking Alabama to win this game 45-24 so they cover the spread. But if Texas can just have a strong showing, if they can put up a good fight, there's no moral victories, but I think you feel encouraged in Austin saying, okay, we can hang with these guys. If this is the standard in college football and we put up a good fight for the first half or 3 quarters, again, no moral victories. There's no little brother syndrome for Texas. I 100% agree and understand that. That's not acceptable in Austin, but it'd be hard to not have something that you're excited about to build forward. Again, sort of a litmus test for Texas in terms of measuring themselves against Alabama and against the GOAT. But again, we got Bama winning that game in Austin 45-24. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.